Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review of A River of Royal Blood by Amanda Joy. This was actually my Patreon VIP pick, which I will change the name of at some point because we've brainstormed it on Patreon streams before. So every time I finish a Patreon VIP pick, I pick a new one, and basically everyone who's a Patreon supporter's name goes into a raffle, and then whoever gets picked from that raffle picks any book they want me to read off of my TBR, or if there's something on my TBR, they will tell me another book that I can read, and I read that and I review it. So this was picked by Turner, who is Mr. Turner Keith on Instagram. So if you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, potentially getting picked for the Patreon VIP, but also voting in polls every month for a book that I'll read, video topics I'll do, Patreon live streams, and we have a Discord group. We have so much stuff on Patreon that I'm actually starting to lose track. So if you want to get more involved in my content in that way, I will link my Patreon on the screen. So this is the first book in a YA fantasy duology. It follows the main character of Ava, and she is one of the rival heirs to the throne. So if there are two or more sisters born, they eventually, when they all become of age, have to compete and kill each other in order to become the heir to the throne. Now Ava's whole life, she has had the magic of marrow and blood. No one knows how to teach her that magic, and she's actually kind of scared of it. She thinks that it makes her a bad person based on the history of her world and everything with this kind of magic. Well, it's getting very close to her name day, which is when she will have to fight her sister for the throne, and she starts discovering a lot of things about her culture, about her magic, and everything kind of goes from there. So first off, we talk about the world building. In this world, there are actually multiple different races of people. So there are humans, there are bloodkin, which essentially are vampires. There are fae, which are like your typical fae, elven-y kind of creatures. And then there are chimera, and chimera were actually the original rulers, but the humans slaughtered them and put them into almost like enslavement camps. And so they are now like the oppressed people of society, and chimera are like human, like animal hybrids, you know, chimera, like your traditional chimera. So all of these different races exist in this world, and I actually really liked that. They all have a different kind of magic, and they were all like, it's interesting to see these that don't always overlap all being in one world. I will say that there was so much though that for a duology like this that is actually like fairly short, there wasn't like enough time. I really like wanted more out of the magic, out of the different races, and all of that. Like I got how the political system worked around them, but as far as like the magic and stuff and how like different they are, I didn't really feel like I got a sense of that. Next, we talk about our characters. Ava as a character, I don't know, I just wanted more from for some reason. I liked her, but, and I'll get to this more in like the plot, there was something about this that just took so long for her to start realizing things, and that's just a part of how the plot's written, that made it just kind of slow. I didn't really care that much. And she was also like making some choices that I don't necessarily feel tracked very well. Also, as far as the villains of the story, they felt pretty one-dimensional. Like just the reasonings, especially when you find out things about like why they are the way they are, I'm just kind of like, I've seen this before, like this feels just very one-dimensional. I did like some of the other characters that were more involved in her life and like her dad's side of the family and things like that. Well, not so much side of the family, but like the people that are more connected to him, they had more complexity to them. Still not quite enough that I would have liked, but more than I feel like some like the villains and some other people we saw around her had. I really did like one of the mentor figures that was around. He is a character that was like basically involved in like the Wild Hunt. I love those kinds of characters. So he was fantastic. He was probably my favorite of the side characters. There's also romance in here that I didn't hate, but I just felt like was kind of not important. Like it really didn't need to be in there. It just was kind of in there as like almost kind of a plot device. Like that just felt kind of blah to me. So last time we talk about the plot, this ended up being much more interesting towards the very end. That's when things really come together. Like the first 70% of the book, 60% of the book, probably 70, like really kind of dragged along, and we're just like seeing Ava like struggle. It just dragged, and like a lot of just repetition of some of this stuff, and then finally we got to where all the pieces connected at the end, and that got much more interesting. This is a series that I'm not sure if I'm going to continue. It is just a duology, but it's one of those like if enough time goes by before I read the second one, like I'm just going to forget everything. Like I'm already forgetting bits and pieces of this because it was fine. Like it wasn't horrible. I didn't dislike reading it. It just didn't really live up to what I would have hoped, but it was still interesting. It did some unique things. So I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars, like just kind of in between. I could see myself finishing it or not. But if you like the sound of the world especially, I would definitely give this a shot. So comment down below, let me know what you thought of A River of Royal Blood. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.